thought that this would be such a problem. I never really gave this much thought before until I just wrote that title. Wisconsin and Louisiana. It's all coming back full circle for me personally, because I grew up in Wisconsin, so any legal entity that wants to challenge my existence there, I put up a bigger fight. I have to put up a bigger fight. It's my home state. Rice Lake, Wisconsin. I grew up there. In Louisiana, that's where I had my first deployment. The first base I deployed to was Barksdale Air Force Base. And it's come full circle for me, having to fight the legal system in Wisconsin and Louisiana, two states that I spent considerable amounts of time at in my early days. My teenage year, up to my teenage years and stuff. Because I went to Louisiana when I was about 1995, and spent almost a year there. It was 9 months. I got out of there kind of quickly. Went over to Cadena Air Force Base after that in Okinawa. I'm parked next to a sewage treatment plant. They're working on Saturdays too. And it's just amazing. If you asked me when I was 19, 20, would I be having to fight these states in the courtroom over civil rights, over my personal civil rights? I wouldn't have guessed it. I wouldn't have seen it, because I was a cop in the Air Force. I was learning the law and practicing it. Pulled over a couple speeders. I didn't pull over many. I probably pulled the whole time I was in the Air Force. I probably pulled over maybe 5 people. I worked mostly the gates. I was a fence guard, and that was pretty much it. So I only pulled over like 5 people. I have very little experience on the base, but it's just amazing that the type of time I spent in Wisconsin and Louisiana in my early years are such a vastly different experience compared to now, having to deal with civil rights and all. And I have changed, and I think the legal system has changed, especially since the 90s. So the perspectives are different. How we treat each other is different, and just working with the changing of the systems. I was joking with I spent a lot of time with myself, so I joke that change is it's like something changes the only change that's guaranteed to change. Changes. So that's when you say there's change, there's also changing within the change, and it's just a constant thing that's happening. And yeah, the way the technology was back then, I never had a computer. I never had Wi-Fi back in 95. I never had this access to the Wi-Fi. I'm sitting in my car outside a library just playing with this Wi-Fi connection right now. Library's not even open. I got about 40 minutes. They got study rooms here, and I could have hooked up in there, but I just thought I'd test it here in this spot. And I'll just point out that I'm on the other side of the train tracks, the other side from the library. You can see I'm right there. I'm parked right next to them. Parked right next to the train tracks on the library's Wi-Fi, talking about my legal issues, which I want to get into here, because I'm doing things that I haven't done before with Wisconsin, and I'm gonna write some motions for Natchitoches, Louisiana as well. But it's not clear if I'm my own lawyer again right now, or if my lawyer is still my lawyer. He divorced himself from my case, but the judge has not acknowledged that with any kind of orders. So we're in a limbo, just like Judge Barber likes to be in a limbo with a lot of things. Okay, he only wants to make decisions on whether you're guilty or innocent. I don't think he likes making any other decisions over there. Just like Judge Owsley, they don't like making all those little decisions on motions and stuff. They just want to call you guilty or not. Well, pretty much guilty. It's pretty 90%, 95% chance you'll be found guilty. Small chance you'll be found not guilty. But that's the only decision they want to be making. Not all that minor stuff in between with all that paperwork discussing the statutes, discussing court rules, discussing Supreme Court rules, discussing administrative rules, discussing I don't know what else. What all do we have? Because that's what ChatGPT has found for me when I did my research, my 1 minute to 2 minute research. I go, hey ChatGPT 4.40, write me a motion okay, and this is for Wisconsin actually. Write me a motion to recollect, to recall hearing number 1, because Judge I don't know, D'Angelo, I forget her name again, Judge Sanfilippo didn't record hearing number 1 and ordered me not to record hearing number 1 either. So nobody has a copy of hearing number 1. Yet in hearing number 2, I requested the court to record hearing number 1. So she did. So we recorded hearing number 2 at least. And I heard the little message saying, recording starting now. And I'll have to get familiar with Zoom. And please mod iShowSpeed. Who's iShowSpeed? I don't know who you are. So I asked her to record the hearing at hearing number 1. So the next hearing. I'm like, okay, let's record the next hearing. And she's like, okay. And she insisted that I not record. So I got her to record that, and that was recorded. And in hearing number 2, that was recorded, she said, I asked, did we establish probable cause? And she's like, oh, that's why we have hearing number 2, because something. She didn't say I established probable cause. She just said that's why we're in hearing number 2. It's because of hearing number 1. What we decided there. And she's just a municipal judge. She doesn't exactly need to find probable cause. But it is a part of the process, at least, to find that there's enough evidence. And there's another word that described that. I don't think I'll be able to find it. I'm not even going to try. But she's insisting that hearing number 1, that this type of evidence was found. So I want transcripts from that. So we don't have them, and I'm writing a motion to recollect, a recollection motion, and that's legible. That's a valid motion to make. When there is no record of a hearing, then you file a motion to recollect. And that's what I did in my 2-minute research on it with ChatGPT. So I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, use the Wisconsin statutes, court rules, Supreme Court rules, um, statutes, court cases, case law. Use it all, and write me a motion to recollect. And it did. I have this motion, and I read it, and it's great. I mean, I haven't shared it on the posts, the community posts, but it's a great motion from 4.0. 4.0 does general stuff that's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't even. I'd have to actually get on to ChatGPT, and it might not even be saved on there. Well, it's in the email, because I emailed that pretty much right away. Then I read it a little bit closer, and it mentions a couple of laws, case laws, that really are not that relevant to the motion to recollect the last hearing. And what recollection is like trying to recall what we talked about. All right, and we get the prosecutor together, me and the judge, and we all just try to remember what we talked about on the first hearing. I've never done this before. They probably never have either, as much as they like to bulldoze. She might even completely ignore my motion, for all I know. But this is record that I want to make for filing an appeal, filing a writ. I'm working on that. So I need to learn about writs and appeals. Writs are this process now. Okay, I file my motion to recollect. If she ignores it, then I want to make a writ to the appeals court, which is in Milwaukee. Okay, and West Milwaukee is only like a 1 square mile piece of Milwaukee that had something going on where it was able to break off from Milwaukee and just be its own entity with its own court and mayor and all of that. But it's such a dense area that they get away with it to have their own little trap in this West Milwaukee area, this 1 mile area. And I've been in little kind of traps like that before. Okay. I've been in little traps like that before, and or not traps, but I've been in little areas, little squared off sections of towns within big cities. Like Phoenix, Arizona has this small little 1 square mile area that's just for, like, I don't know, it's called San Rafael or something. I believe it's a Native American reservation in some way in Arizona, and it's in the big city. I don't know why I can't remember anything. I get forgetful at I was just Phoenix. I was just talking about Phoenix. Phoenix has that little 1 square mile. Well, Milwaukee's got it too. I'm learning legally wise, but I mean, I was learning geographically in Phoenix. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This little tiny area that's incorporated on all its own. But I mean, it's a kind of a dense area, part of the Phoenix that's just able to operate on outside of Phoenix. It's able to operate without Phoenix interfering. Maybe they work with each other. But yeah, that's the same way with West Milwaukee, within Milwaukee. And it's interesting. It makes me wonder how cooperative they are. How is the appeals court in Milwaukee? Because I know Milwaukee is supposed to be pretty liberal. Okay, I mean, I understand that Milwaukee itself would not be so quick to arrest me for being parked late at night in a grocery store parking lot. Not like West Milwaukee. West Milwaukee is a little more hands-on than Milwaukee. But I can appeal this issue to Milwaukee, the appeals court that's located in Milwaukee. And I might have to drive back to Milwaukee the way they're treating me. But I made this motion to recollect. I want to recollect the first hearing number one, and I told ChatGPT 4.0 to look everywhere. Where are all the laws and the case law for that? And it gave me several statutes, and like I mentioned, two before are not really relevant. So I read it. It looks good. I sent it to him, and no response, of course. And then I was like, okay, let me run it through ChatGPT 01, and that's the experimental one. And ChatGPT 01 evaluated what ChatGPT 4.0 wrote, and it said, hey, you can add this administrative rule as well. And then you could take out something that says everybody is allowed access to the courtroom to make it fair. You don't need that. You don't need to recite that statute that everybody is entitled to have access to the courtroom. You don't need it. And I mean, I thought it would look good. It's like it was giving me a rating system on how relevant the law is to my arguments in ChatGPT 01 preview or whatever it's called. And then I'm like, okay, this all looks good. Okay, 01, write me that motion. Write me a motion based on your recommendation. And it said it can't do it. 01, it's like beneath 01 to do that. So it can make these great recommendations. Oh, this law looks good. Why don't you add this, take this out? It's got all these suggestions it wrote for me. And I'm like, cool, do it then. Let's do this. And it said, oh, sorry, I can't do that. So, all right. I just copied the recommendations, and I went back to ChatGPT 4.0, and I'm like, okay, based on these recommendations, can you rewrite that motion of recollection? And it did, no problem. So that higher level one that's like on PhD level, it's beneath them to write a motion for me apparently. So but 4.0 still does it. They do the general tasks, and that's what I think. You know, this legal stuff isn't exactly rocket science. It takes a lot of digging, more, you know, in like digging a grave, than it does actually serious deep logic like math problems or just word problems in general. So I got the second version I like better, so I sent that to West Milwaukee Municipal Court as well. And I mean, this is all new territory for me, probably for them. I even wrote the changes I made just to make it clear that I want this second one for the judge to read and not so much the first one. I put the changes made, and that's what ChatGPT put too. They said, okay, these are the changes. It wrote my motion for me, and then it said, these are the changes I made. So I put those changes at the top so that the clerk of court can see it. Yep, I'm homeless. I'm in my car. So I thought that was pretty neat, and I'm going to be working on more today when the library opens up. I want to write some motions to Louisiana, and I want to try to get that continuance, because it's just not looking good to get there by October 17th. I really could use a continuance on that case. I mean, I got so many problems that can come up just anywhere I could go. I mean, just recently I had this cop pull up to me and tell me that I can't camp here, and it's not this park, it was another park. And I mean, that's the type of stuff that's gonna be happening as I continue to travel, and it gets worse as I go further south because there's just more crime in the south from my experience. People are less inclined to steal from each other, to do horrible things to each other up in the north than they are in the south. And to have to return back to Louisiana, I'm going to be getting closer and closer to increased crime rates. And I'm not in any rush to barrel into that, not at all. So I definitely need a continuance for that. I mean, those Southerners don't see it. They don't come up north to see how peaceful it is. they're just blind, and they want to blame me for falling short of their expectations. Well, maybe they should get out and travel and have a different perspective on the reality. Somebody just made a comment that I should be looking for some lowly farmer who will give me permission to stay on their property. No way. That's never going to happen. What farmer would let you just stay on their property? I mean, it's ridiculous. They're so heavily dependent on machinery and maintaining the safety of their property, maintaining the just the integrity of what they're working on. They're not boarding houses. Those boarding houses were from a long time ago. I've seen them. I've come across them. They're old old establishments that they've tried making outside of cities, and they've failed pretty much. I think pretty much all of them failed. The only establishments that are successful outside of cities, like far away from cities, are prisons. That's it. You can't make a mental institution outside of a city. It has to be in the city. They put the successful homeless shelters are the ones that are inside the city, like right practically in the center or just off center. You don't make a homeless shelter outside the city. It just doesn't work. It's just destined to fail. Just based historically on, well, what I've seen, the buildings I've seen, the abandoned psych wards outside of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and various parts of Illinois. They don't work. The only ones that work are the ones that have big fences around them to keep those people contained and not let anybody else come in too. It's really weird how that I mean, those experiments have been made and documented, so I think people have learned from them. I mean, just I'm only basing it on what I've read on the signs near these failed abandoned places. Um, I haven't really read any books on the subject. Just based on my travels, when I come across. So yeah, I'm working on motions right now for both Wisconsin and Louisiana, and they're pretty easy to write. I don't really need the inputs like I used to need a couple of years ago because I was desperate for help. I was like, begging for help. I'm kind of asking if anybody is in West Milwaukee if they would be interested in stopping at the police station to pick up a CD for me. Apparently, there's a CD that the clerk of court says is of the last hearing that's available to me. The judge authorized it, and I have to pay $1. I have to go to the police station, that's where they left it, and pay $1 to pick up the last hearing CD. That's not even the body cams yet. The chief is still working on the body cams. Apparently, she just acknowledged my email yesterday and said she's working on it. So I'm expecting my evidence. I'm waiting on my evidence from West Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and also, and I mean I want to really be on top of this. I also want to request more evidence from Natchitoches, Louisiana, because I want updates on my arresting officers' training and discipline records, okay, and the police policies. I want Judge Barber to make a decision on whether I'm allowed police policies, because Judge Owsley pretty much denied me the police policies. They redacted like 80% of their policies and then handed over pretty much blank pages and then wording in between, just large chunks of blanks. And that was Judge Owsley's doing. I don't know why people vote that guy in. He's not about transparency in any way, but he's certainly about jailing you. And people vote him in. And I mean, the way Barber's acting, he seems to be on the same lines of thinking as Owsley by denying me a Zoom hearing when Judge Owsley can hold Zoom trials. So I'm re-asking questions because my case has started all over again, and yeah, if Al Sanderson, if you're in West Milwaukee, I'm welcoming anybody who well, if you're computer proficient, if you could share that last hearing. The judge said that I can't share it, but I mean, I can't make it to West Milwaukee. I don't think it. I could try, but I got to get to Natchitoches. I mean, what they're saying is October 17th. But now I'm looking at two places I got to stop now. West Milwaukee to pick up the evidence and the court and hearing number two, and then for trial in Natchitoches, October 17th is the pre-trial, and then the trial is scheduled for like November 18th or something. Between Wisconsin and Louisiana, these are some long distances, and I'm being stretched in between them by these judges, by these municipal judges, these dirty municipal judges, San Filippo and Barber, complete opposites ends of the country. And so something's gonna fail for me. I mean, I can, if I were to weigh, which I think is more important, I think fighting for my innocence is more important for Wisconsin being my home state than it is Louisiana. So I might have to let some Louisiana issues go and just take some damage from what they want to impose upon me. But I'm certainly gonna fight Louisiana. I can fight over the internet, and that's not something I could have done in my teenage years. Teenagers can do that now. They can fight over the internet for their innocence, for their freedom, and especially with the help of AI. What a helpful piece of technology to come out recently. I mean, it was just in 2022, just a couple years ago when I got arrested, January of 2022, I wasn't using any AI to help with my motions. I was asking for inputs from viewers, and I was reading comments religiously, asking for help, and getting some help, getting little bits and pieces. I'd make another video and say, hey, I need help with this motion. I needed the, I was writing the bill of particulars and discovery and then making my motions for in limine and all of that, trying to get help. But I don't need that help so much anymore. I just go to the ChatGPT. I input in ChatGPT 01 now. 01 preview is allowing 50 inquiries per week now. It used to be 30, and now it's up to 50. So they're expanding their query. I'm still using more 4.0 than I am the latest version, because 4.0 is really satisfying my needs for motions, for answering questions about the law and cases and all that. So you know how to rid yourself of all your worries. Yeah, I just pay them. I could rid it by pleading guilty to both, paying $600 to West Milwaukee, and then no, they're not free. I'm paying $20 a month. This is my legal fees. These are my legal fees now, is $20 a month to ChatGPT. But I mean, ChatGPT is more than just my lawyer. It's my dietitian. It's my auto mechanic, or at least my auto mechanic advisor. It's my medical reference. It's just a historian. ChatGPT is just an all-encompassing thing that answers all my questions. But it can also write motions, which is incredible. So primarily, it's my lawyer at this time, and so I want to I want to rewrite a motion for the evidence to get the training records, discipline records. And these cops, as far as I know, Miller and the other guy, Harris or whatever, they're not even working for Natchitoches police anymore. And I don't know about Favors. She might still be working for the police station. I'm not sure. So I don't know quite how to ask about their training and discipline records at their other police stations, but I'm going to do it. I want to know how they are acting at their new jobs as well, because I think it's all relevant. Just like Judge Owsley says that everything is, he said something like everything is relevant. It's all like just within the scope of the case. It's, yeah, I guess it's whatever the word is. It's all relevant. What the cops are doing now is relevant to my case 2 years ago, because maybe there is a pattern that they have been developing over time since then, since my arrest, that can shine some light on how their behavior was back then. Yeah, and that's the argument I want to make, and I'm going to input everything, every little idea in my head. I just, as scrambled as it may sound, if I were to communicate it, ChatGPT gets me, and I'll write that in. Any little idea, just give them all the information. I want to know how these cops are now at their new jobs, wherever they're at. This is all going to Judge Barber. I want that information. I want to know, and this might be a stretch, might be asking too much, but the policies that were in place in 2022 and the policies that are now, 2 years later, did the police policies change? Well, it would be interesting. The redactions might change a little bit. I should have copies of the redacted police policies from 2022, which what did I get? April, by March or so. March 2022 is when I got their police policies heavily redacted. So I would expect to see a little something different in the latest policies. Okay, do a records request for their previous departments listed. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know about department clear the reason. The reason for their separation. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that. What was their reason for separation? There you go. Now I'm going to put that in my question for sure. Let me write that as a note. Okay, this is going to be my motion for training records. Okay, I did not think about motion. Okay, I'm going to put Natchitoches so I don't forget. I got so much information. I'm going back and forth between Wisconsin and Louisiana. Okay. Reason for separation, because that sounds relevant. What's going on at their new jobs? What's their reason for separation? Okay, do a records request for their previous departments listed, then request the records at previous departments, including reason. Because this, I'm not just doing an FOIA. I'm doing a discovery request, and I'm willing to do a subpoena for it as well. We're starting all over again. I want to get this information. It's for my defense. It's not just because I'm curious. I need it for my defense. Is he the one that you typically see doing? Okay. I'm not a records request. I don't do records requests. I become the defendant, and then I do discoveries and subpoenas. I'm not a records request person. All right, there's other people for that. All right. Yeah, did they resign? Did they resign or were fired? And I mean, I don't really want to have to ask them on the stands at my trial. I want to ask that beforehand. I want to know that information beforehand. That's public information. So that's a good question to ask as a part of it. And I just toss it all into ChatGPT and let it make it sound better, make it sound professional for me, and then I'll send it. I want to send it out this weekend. Library's opening up in 10 minutes. I got to eat, and then I want to get into that library and start on these motions start submitting them. I may not get any response, but I'm still a defendant. I don't know why they would be ignoring me. I'm still a defendant. You don't just ignore defendants. In fact, Judge Sanfilippo did acknowledge all of my motions at hearing number 2. So I mean, there's some acknowledgement there that she may deny them, but she's acknowledging them at least. So yeah, I wanna get in there and work on that some more. I mean, I'm kind of waiting on a delivery. I'll admit I ordered a large mortar and pestle, and I'm waiting on that in this city. So I want to pick that up because I really like crushing food. So that's spend the time doing research for these motions for both Wisconsin and Louisiana, the working with different statutes, and so I'm gonna do that. So I guess that's it. I was just kind of testing this connection, and that's it, and just talking about the cases a little bit. So I'm done, and have a good rest of your day.